8. Fallacy. Appeal to fear. An appeal to fear is a logical fallacy that attempts to persuade someone by instilling fear of an alternative or a negative outcome. This tactic is common in politics, marketing, and media, where fear of a threat is used to gain support for an idea or product, often by presenting a drastic "if you don't do this, then X bad thing will happen" scenario. While fear appeals can motivate behavior, their effectiveness depends on the perceived threat, individual susceptibility, and the clarity of the suggested action to mitigate the threat. How it works. Creating fear. The appeal focuses on generating fear by describing a negative outcome or threat. Promoting a solution. The fear created is then linked to a specific action or idea that the persuader wants you to adopt, presented as the solution to avoid the frightening consequence. Non-logical argument. The argument is not based on evidence or reason, but rather on the emotional response of fear, which is irrelevant to the truth or falsity of the claim. Examples. Politics. If you don't vote for this policy, our country will fall into economic ruin. Advertising. A commercial showing graphic imagery of a car accident to persuade viewers to buy a safer car. Public health. Using strong warnings about the severity of a disease and the lack of a cure to motivate people to follow preventative guidelines during a pandemic. Effectiveness of fear appeals. The effectiveness of fear appeals can vary. Danger control response. If the message is severe and believable and the audience feels capable of taking the recommended action, it can lead to a positive change in behavior. Fear control response. If the message is too overwhelming or the recommended action seems impossible, the audience might ignore or downplay the threat. No response. If the threat seems unlikely or insignificant, the appeal may not elicit any fear or response. Also known as scare tactics, appeal to force, ad baculum. Description of appeal to fear. The appeal to fear is a fallacy with the following pattern. Y is presented. A claim that is intended to produce fear. Therefore claim X is true. A claim that is generally, but need not be, related to Y in some manner. This line of reasoning is fallacious because creating fear in people does not constitute evidence for a claim. It is important to distinguish between a rational reason to believe, RRB, evidence, and a prudential reason to believe, PRB, motivation. ARRB is evidence that objectively and logically supports the claim. A PRB is a reason to accept the belief because of some external factor, such as fear, a threat, or a benefit or harm that may stem from the belief. That is relevant to what a person values but is not relevant to the truth or falsity of the claim. For example, it might be prudent to not fail the son of your department chairperson because you fear he will make life tough for you. However, this does not provide evidence for the claim that the son deserves to pass the class. Examples of appeal to fear. You know, Professor Smith, I really need to get an A in this class. I'd like to stop by during your office hours later to discuss my grade. I'll be in your building anyways, visiting my father. He's your dean, by the way. I'll see you later. I don't think a Red Ryder BB rifle would make a good present for you. They are very dangerous and you'll put your eye out. Now, don't you agree that you should think of another gift idea? You must believe that God exists. After all, if you do not accept the existence of God, then you will face the horrors of hell. You shouldn't say such things against multiculturalism. If the chair heard what you were saying, you would never receive tenure. So, you had just better learn to accept that it is simply wrong to speak out against it. 9. Fallacy. Appeal to flattery. An appeal to flattery is a logical fallacy where excessive or irrelevant compliments are used to persuade someone to accept an argument or agree to a request, rather than relying on evidence or logic. This manipulative tactic appeals to a person's vanity, ego, or sense of pride, making them feel good about themselves and more likely to be swayed by the flatterer's claim or request. The goal is to grease the wheels and get support by apple polishing or stroking the ego. Key characteristics. Praise over proof. The argument rests on complimentary statements rather than solid evidence or logical reasoning. Emotional manipulation. It plays on the audience's emotions and self-esteem, making them feel good about themselves and therefore more receptive to the argument. Distraction from the core issue. By focusing on flattery, the persuader distracts from the logical soundness of the claim or request. Irrelevant compliments. The compliments are often out of place or exaggerated, serving only to influence opinion. How to identify it? 1. Look for excessive praise. Is the argument built on overly generous compliments rather than factual information? 2. Consider the context. Do the compliments seem unrelated to the argument, or are they used to sway your opinion without providing logical support? 3. Assess your emotional response. Do you feel a surge of pride or self-worth because of the compliments, even without logical justification for the argument? Examples. You're a highly intelligent and sophisticated reader, so you'll surely agree with my argument. You're the best and most creative person I know. You must agree that this is a wonderful idea, so let's move forward with it. Fallacy. Appeal to flattery. Also known as apple polishing, various colorful expressions. Description of appeal to flattery. An appeal to flattery is a fallacy of the following form. Person A is flattered by person B. Person B makes claim X. Therefore X is true. The basic idea behind this fallacy is that flattery is presented in the place of evidence for accepting a claim. This sort of reasoning is fallacious because flattery is not, in fact, evidence for a claim. This is especially clear in a case like this. My Bill, that is a really nice tie. By the way, it is quite clear that 1 plus 1 is equal to 43. Examples of appeal to flattery. Might I say that this is the best philosophy class I've ever taken. By the way, about those 2 points I need to get an A. That was a wonderful joke about AIDS, boss, and I agree with you that the damn liberals are wrecking the country. Now about my raise. That was a singularly brilliant idea. I have never seen such a clear and eloquent defense of Plato's position. If you do not mind, I'll base my paper on it. Provided that you allow me a little extra time past the deadline to work on it.